Ladies and gentlemen, Gene DiNapoli.
Hey. Happy Monday, Gene.
Happy Monday, Mike. How are you?
Good. How are you?
You know what? A little tired. Busy week and weekend, but always happy to be with you on Monday for new fans and friends, and always for positive things. We're very happy.
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
It was good. It was good. Just like always, it goes so fast, and before you know it, it's Monday again, and I'm here with you.
I know. My weekend was a little slower because I was on a movie set since Friday, and when you're on a movie set, it's hurry up and wait.
Of course.
So you get dressed and you're sitting on a couch for 4 or 5 hours. But they were all professional, and I got to meet who I believe is going to become a good friend of mine from the movie Goodfellas, the gentleman that played the young Henry Hill, Chris Cerrone. There's me and Chris last night in this movie called Pumpkin Hole. I play Chris's dad. And the funny part is I'm only 10 years older than Chris, yet Chris said I look a lot older.
Well, at least you don't play the pumpkin hole. So.
I don't play the pumpkin hole. But good to be here. Hi, everybody. Hope you're all with us. Let's right away mention our sponsors. Put them up, and I'll mention them because I forgot the order. Pure Organic Cleaners, Dry Cleaners, Laundry, Tremont Avenue in Throgs Neck. Call them up, and they pay for 3 items, get the 4th one free. Dream Destinations Travel, our friends Howard and Karen. Call them, go to their website. Depending on the trip you book, you can get a $50 or a $100 gift certificate in addition to all the perks you get by going through Dream Destinations Travel. If you're into CBD, cannabis oils, cannabis gummies, visit our friends at sweetheals.com. Mention my name for a 20% discount and a free gift. And then last but not least, this is our friend Francisco, the creative CPA. See Fran's website and the phone number. And Fran is very, very good at what she does in giving you the service you need. So that's where we're going to start with them. We'll mention them later on.
Very nice.
We got some friends already in. I tell you, Mike, I am so thrilled when I call up a friend of mine, and they're very busy. Even in this pandemic, people are still doing what they need to do to work, and they're busy with family life. And I say, hey, I got a podcast. And they go, what do you need from me? I say, I need you. And only so far 2 people out of the 30 I've contacted have told me no. And we're going to hope that in the next couple of months they come to their senses and say, okay, we're going to do it. But continuing with our Italian Heritage Month, we had Christina Fontanelli the first week. Last week we had a mentor of mine, Joey D. And this next guy who we're going to spend the next hour or so with, not only a great vocalist, and not only the only reason Staten Island was known for doo-wop, but he's one of the nicest guys in the business. And this man never says no to a cause or to a friend. So, Mike, will you please welcome the lead singer of a great group called The Elegants, singer, songwriter, producer, actor, and my friend Vito Picone.
There he is. Hello, Vito.
How we doing?
Hi, Vito. Oh, you look great, man.
We're doing it. We're doing it.
We're doing it as you've been doing for a little over 60 years.
Oh my God! Would you believe that? I could be your father. Never mind. Never mind being that kid's father.
I played the kid's father. Vito, right off the bat, you are the only Staten Island native that was in the doo-wop genre. Am I correct?
Actually, yeah, probably one or two other acts when we first kicked off. There was a group called The Secrets that recorded for Decca. But the only one that actually wound up charted, and of course the #1 record was Little Star, and we were 5 native islanders, all Staten Island guys.
Right. I mean, there were other groups, but you were the ones that brought national prominence to
international.
Yeah. The Bronx was represented by Dion
Sure.
in the Dop Wop, but of course Bobby Darin is from us and Larry Chance.
We
Queen.
shared Bobby, by the way. Did you know that?
Excuse me?
We shared Bobby Darin. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Bobby's family had a summer bungalow about 2 blocks from my house, and every summer we literally grew up together. He's a little older than me, but we all hung out together.
Wow, this is why we do this show, for people to learn things that they don't normally learn. That's great.
I lived in a neighborhood. South Beach was where I was born, and it's basically at the foot of the Verrazano Bridge now, but there was no Verrazano Bridge at that time. And everybody came from the Lower East Side, from the Bronx, from Hoboken, and they all had summer bungalows in the area there. And then later on, most of them moved in permanently. But Bobby actually, lived in, like I said, 2 blocks away from me.
That's fabulous. Well, what a great guy to hang out with on a more social level than just being on a show.
We even toured together for quite a long time too. So it was like an all home week,
Unbelievable. And of course, Brooklyn had the
Mystics,
the classics. Queens was Lenny Coco, correct?
Right.
And
Randy and
Manhattan. Right, Randy. Manhattan, you had Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. You had
the Crests.
The Crests, yeah. Johnny, a lot of people think Johnny came from Brooklyn, but because of the name of the group, but he was from the Lower East Side, right? Hell's Kitchen or something?
He lived on the Lower East Side, and I think it was the Alfred E. Smith Projects, I think.
Wow.
And, then his family they also had a summer bungalow, but it was in a neighboring town for me. It was a place called Midland Beach. So as a kid, he used to come there for the summers, and then we actually hung out too. We hung out together, Bobby Darin, myself, Johnny, all on the South Beach boardwalk.
Unbelievable. When I hang out with my friends, their names are Frankie Fingers and Sal Pizza, but for you to hang out socially with those greats, that's a book in itself.
Nicknames came with the territory.
Yes,
and they were instant. We had a friend of ours that was doing some work at the house, and with an electric saw, he cut off one of his fingers, and he wrapped it in the towel, and he come running around the corner and begged somebody to take him to the hospital. And one of the guys on the corner says, "Anybody want to take Sally 9 to the hospital?"
Sally 9.
Wound up with a nickname in about 5 seconds.
Oh my God, that's great. Now, Vito, did you come from a musical family?
Actually, yes and no. My father was a guitar player. He had his own band. Of course, he worked on the docks too. He worked on the piers, and he was a presser in my uncle's dress factory, and doing 3-4 jobs, to make a living at that time. And he was a guitar player. A lot of my cousins played. My cousin Lefty played drums. My cousin Vicky was a piano player. A lot of accordion players.
Right.
Couple of clarinet players.
Right.
But
you wound up playing a very non-normal instrument, which a lot of people don't know. I came to see you many, many times, and one night I came to see you in Yorktown, and you told the story of how you became a trombone player.
Right. I didn't want the trombone when they started the program, the music program in the public school system. I was in the 4th grade. They asked us what instruments we would like to play, and I had said I want to play sax, drums, or guitar. I was into rock and roll, or I wanted to be anyway. And the wind-up was that the truck came 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, and they handed everybody their instruments, and they gave me this case. I couldn't imagine what that thing was. I opened it up, and there it is, a trombone. I asked why they gave me that. So I was one of the tallest kids in the class, and I could reach the last position. So I was a trombone player. As was Carmen Romano, who was also my best friend, who was the the co-founder of the Elegance.
Right.
And he was with me until he passed a couple of years ago. But
Right.
the trombone players, we wound up learning some music, a little music from there.
Right. So now, 1958, you started, and right out of the gate, you penned and sang what I consider one of the top 10 vocal doo-wop songs of all time. Of course, your biggest hit, "Little Star." Now, there's a lot of this information that was taken from a Mozart composition. Is that true?
Well, obviously Mozart, I think he was 9 years old when he wrote the poem, or when he wrote "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." The concept was there, but pretty much the lyrics were all new. All the ad-libbing I did, myself, I added, and the whoa, whoa, whoas and rat-tat-tats came from, we took that from the Heartbeats from 1,000 Miles Away, because we were all major Heartbeat fans.
Right.
And pretty much it was ours from the beginning. If you go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, from the day that they opened it, there's an exhibit, a doo-wop exhibit, and Little Star is there. You press a button and it gives you a couple of paragraphs of how we got started, and how we did, and how Little Star became had grown, was from a rehearsal that we had. In the middle of the night, we were really tired. Started to get around 12 o'clock. We were really, getting tired, and we started getting silly, and everybody started goofing around. We were looking for new sounds. Then we started Little Jack Horner, Mary Had a Little Lamb, Humpty Dumpty, and then, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And then all of a sudden, Artie Venosa, my first tenor, we looked at each other and said, "That's not a bad one. We should go home, get some rest, meet by my house tomorrow morning, and we'll see what we can do." And that's what he did. He came over the house. 20 minutes later, we wrote Little Star in 20 minutes.
Fabulous. Mike, could you play a little bit of Little Star for our viewers, please, and our listeners?
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll do our best, and we'd like to dedicate it to all of you. God bless you all. Thank you for 60 beautiful years. Thank you. Where are you, little star? Where are you? Whoa, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are. Wish I may, wish I might, make this wish come true tonight. Search all over for the love, you're the one I'm thinking of.
Wow. I tell you, Vito, pure harmony. And of course, that was your most recent incarnation of the Elegance. But we want to make a mention, of course, you mentioned Arthur Venosa and Carmen Romano. Also, Frank Tardegano and James Michella were the original members, according with you.
Jimmy's still working with me. We're still working together.
Right. That's fabulous, because a lot of groups today, never mind have one member. You had a few over the course of many years.
We lost Carmen Romano and we lost Artie Venosa in the last couple of years. Frankie Tardona's he's retired. He's got some medical issues, but he's retired.
Right.
And Jimmy was the oldest in the group. He was 19 when we were 16 and 17. So, I thought he would retire first, but he's stronger. He's moving faster than we are.
Wow, that's great. So now you record Little Star, and not only has it become a million seller and reached the top of the charts, in an era where there were no computers, you sold between 2 and 2.5 million copies of that record. 80,000 a day were flying off the record shelves in the United States. which is a feat only by people of Elvis Presley, Fats Domino, people of that. So you were like one of the first doo-wop groups to ever do that and take off. So do you remember your first show as a hit-making group?
Yeah, we went to Worcester, Massachusetts at White City Beach, and the opening act for us was Ricky Nelson. Yeah, and then we went out. We were in Binghamton, New York. Was our first plane trip. First time I was on a plane. 45 minutes. I was panicking all the time. I was going to be on this plane. I took a sleeping pill so I would sleep right the way through. Never thinking it was a 45-minute trip. So I took the pill, made the whole trip without sleeping. Wound up doing the show half asleep. I was half in a coma, from the pill.
So now you would do, of course, Little Star, but you would do 2 or 3 others.
Yeah, depending on the size of the show. We always did the flip side of Little Star, which was Getting Dizzy. That would be our opening song, and then if we had to, we would add maybe Little Girl of Mine or Out of Sight, Out of Mind, things like that. But pretty much we stuck with our own stuff because a lot of times you don't forget you were really ad-libbing, not ad-libbing, you were lip syncing. Most of the places didn't even have musicians or couldn't afford musicians, whatever the case may be. So you lip sync to you lip synced to everything, and until we actually did a 30-day tour or something like that. We went out with Buddy Holly and Dion and I. We went out together for 30 days, and then we had a 16 or a 14-piece orchestra, I think, playing for us. So that's the time we would really do what we had to do. Same thing with Alan Freed when we did the Brooklyn Fox. We were there for 10 days, and they had a big beat band, which was unbelievable. We had King Curtis,
Sam
the Man Taylor, Georgia Old, Panama Francis on drums. Yeah.
So how many shows did you do at the Brooklyn Paramount back then for 10 days? How many shows did that?
Oh man, we were trying to figure that out the other day. But they did so many shows per day, you forget what the heck you did. Somebody said 6 a day for 10 days. Somebody said 4 a day for 10 days. I don't really remember, but I do remember in between the shows we would go backstage and into the green room, and we'd all just have some kind of camaraderie, and we'd enjoy ourselves more backstage. And the other thing too is when you got tired of doing that, you went and watched the movie. We watched it from behind the screen. So the movie was Tank Force with Robert Mitchum or Victor Mitchum, I forgot. But I could tell you that whole movie, but I have to see it backwards. I have to see it from behind.
That's great.
You see that thing. You see that 60 times. It stays in your head.
Yeah. When did you tour with Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis?
Those were incidental things. We did a couple of short hits down south. Also with Chuck, we did some also down in that area. But the Midwest tour was the long one. Those were the 30 days at a clip, and the ones in California were pretty long. We stayed out there for maybe 3 weeks up the entire coast. I did that one with Bobby Freeman. Do You Want to Dance?
Yeah.
The Olympics, Western movies. There was a local group called the Internationals, I believe that was their name, and one of the kids in that group was Ralph Matheson, which supposedly was Johnny Mathison's younger brother. So,
oh wow.
And we worked that whole. Then we went to Hawaii. Little Star was the biggest selling record in the history of the Hawaiian Islands, and we wound up landing on the tarmac. They took us out of the plane on the stairwell going out to the tarmac. They closed all the schools. We had thousands of kids on the tarmac waiting for us, and drove us to a limousine, took us to the Civic Auditorium, the theater, and we actually followed Elvis into that theater.
Wow. Yeah, he was there in '57.
Yeah.
Followed him. Yeah. Right. So now you come back, you do the tour, you come back. Did you have a job? Did you have a regular job, or was this?
No. Yeah. What happened? I mean, at 16 years old, we were going to school. I had gone. I I was a class clown. I mean, every year I was in summer school. I did 4 years of summer school, 4 years of regular school. You know, and and I was coming out of summer school in my senior year, and Jimmy, I told you, was a little older. He had a car, and he was waiting at the end of the ramp when I was walking down. He said, the song just hit #1. I threw my books right in a big garbage pail that was there, and we went out. We went from that minute on. This is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So we didn't have a job, but the Beatles changed all that, and then we had to go find something, and then you realize, you didn't have anything to fall back on, not at 16 years old anyway.
Right.
So we wound up doing different things. Friends of mine had a construction company. We jumped in with them for, a couple of weeks, couple of months. Unfortunately, it changed my life a little bit, because only the couple of weeks that I was out there, I wound up having an accident with and I wound up with a piece of steel went through my left eye, and then lost the sight in my left eye. So, that was not too happy about doing those few weeks. But I did a couple of things. I graduated photography school. I worked for the Port Authority with the photographic department for a while, and then, I mean, just about everything. I kept myself busy, always in my own business. I've had a couple of businesses over the years, and always leaving myself the opportunity to go away when I had to, come back when I had to. I had something waiting for me,
Right.
and I was able to control my life that way.
Right. Yeah. You headed up one of the biggest entertainment agency in New York City, Headline Talent, for a few years, I think. Right.
I opened that up in 1990, and I closed it about 3 years ago, but just 4 years ago maybe. And I was on 1650 Broadway for about 26 years, I think.
Yeah. Right above Ellen Stardust.
Right. And not only that, the basement, which is now the Iridium, the jazz club, that was Allegro Studios, where
Yes.
pretty much everybody went down there and recorded their demos, and some people actually recorded some of their songs.
Wow. That's great. Now you have a hit, and you get approached by a very young lady, young compared to the music business, 19-year-old Kathy Watts.
Right.
So you signed with Kathy. Did you get advice to sign with somebody older who might have had more connections, or was
Kathy lived in the neighboring community of Dungan Hills, and the church there, St. Anne's Church, they would have dances on the weekends, and we were singing at the local dances. And she had approached us and said that she would like to manage us. She was only 19 herself at the time, and I don't know if she gave us some spiel about having connections or not, or what the reason was, but we did sign an agreement with her, and we started rehearsing at her house, and tightening up the group a little bit. Her brother Joe Watts was he was our age and went to school with us, and he literally became the sixth elegant. We would throw him in the car with us everywhere we went, and he'd keep us company. But the wind-up was that the record hit. She really didn't have much to do with it. It was a coincidence. We were looking to do some auditioning, and we took the addresses from a bunch of records that we have, 45s. They used to put the address of the label on it. And the first one we went to was Hull Records, because of our love of the heartbeats. And the woman that owned it, this woman B. Caslin, she literally flipped over Little Star, and we brought contracts back to our parents. They took them to the lawyers, and before we knew it, we were in the studio, and the record took off. Problem was that our inexperience was probably a death knell to us, because somebody advised her that the money was not in the record; it's in the live performances. And she kept us working out there for almost a year. And by the time we literally get back into the studio, we were playing second fiddle to a lot of the acts, and the sounds were changing. The Mystics had recorded Hushabye, which Laurie Records, they went and bought Little Star at Colony Records and broke the whole thing down, and copied Little Star from that and gave it to the Mystics, who were signed to them, which
Right.
I don't have no problem with that,
Right.
But I would have loved to have Hushabye be our follow-up record. That would have probably set us up for a long time.
Well, you mentioned that the Beatles and the invasion came, 3 years after you have your initial hit, 4 years, the scene changed. So you never know what would have been. But you were out there as one of the best vocal live acts. So much so that not only did you sell 2.5 million copies, you did something that is very rare. You crossed over, and you were the number one 1958 R&B hit. Uh, how is that possible in that day and age to cross over into a
Well,
predominantly African American chart?
because I believe that a lot of people didn't know we were white. We were the second white rock and roll group to have a number one record, and we were only beat by Danny and the Juniors by a few months with At the Hop. And pretty much everybody listening to the music, they were assuming that every act was a black act. There were very, very few, white acts that were actually, recording or having any kind of success, so that they could be heard on the radio. And I think that probably had a lot to do with it. I mean, when we did the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem, for Hal Jackson, who was the a young DJ at the time.
Right.
He was doing rock and roll shows at the Audubon Ballroom, which was a pretty big place. That's where Malcolm X was assassinated, and we popped up, and everybody's mouths, their jaws dropped, and we were white, and but the bottom line was we held our own. I mean, even from my standpoint, I wouldn't even buy a record by a white act because I was so locked into the R&B groups, the early R&B groups, the Nutmegs, and the Chords and groups like that, Moonglows, But I found myself being the one to literally kick the door open, and so it's, like Dion and I said, we kicked the door open for 99% of the Italian, the white Italian groups, and in that sense, it was a good thing. The Passions, the Chimes, the Mystics, the Brandy and the Rainbows. These were all Italian guys that that came afterwards, and and it became a little easier for them because everybody was looking to copy what Dion and I were doing.
Sure. Now you originally got signed to Hull Records, but the record didn't come out on Hull. It came out on ABC Paramount, right?
On APT. It
APT.
was what happened there is to our benefit, B Kasler, the owner of Hull, realized that she had something bigger than she could handle. She knew her distribution would not be strong enough to help help this record sell. So she went to ABC Paramount, and they took it, and they released us to ABC Paramount. They put us on a sublet. Actually, they put us on a subsidiary label that they had just kicked open, called Apt Records, and that's how we wound up on Apt. But we had a contract with them to do 4 sides. We did 4 sides with them. 8 Little Star, flip side was Getting Dizzy. We did Little Boy Blue and Get Well Soon, which was the flip side of that. And after that, obviously, B figured she still had the power now to put us on Hull when and have a group with some recognition name. And she put us back. She would not leave us with or re-sign with ABC Paramount. So we went back to Hull, and we did a couple of songs with Hull. And I'm sorry, not Little Boy Blue. We did Please Believe Me and Good Night. Those were the songs we did with Apt.
Right.
And then we went back to Hull. That's when we did Little Boy Blue and Get Well Soon and a couple other things.
Right. I happen to be a fan of those 2 songs that you just mentioned. So we're going to play a little bit of each song for our listeners. Please Believe Me and Good Night. So, Mike, would you run those, please?
We had a request for a thing, ladies and gentlemen, that we would love to do for you. Our second record, Please Believe Me. Oh, believe me. Oh.
Wow. I always loved those.
That
Always loved
the
those.
first version of that, Please Believe Me, the one you just played, that was a live version from the Beacon Theater. And Good Night was actually the actual recording itself. And you can hear the piano in the background of Good Night. Laurie Records went and got my arranger, Teacher Wiltshire, and got him to do the stuff for the Belmonts. They did No One Knows, Where or When, and you can hear him do that floating piano, pretty much that style on their records. As much as Please Believe Me was almost the same style as Beyond when he wound up doing Run Around 2 and The Wanderer. They're all pretty similar to Please Believe Me.
Right. So now you reformed the group in 1960 after the initial hit, and you were a four-piece at that point with Bruce Kopp, Fred Redmond, and Nino Amato. And we want to just send out a very special prayer to Nino and dedicate tonight's show to him and his work with the group. So we're not getting into anything of substance. Just everybody, please, when you go to sleep tonight, put Nino in your prayers. We just wanted to mention that. I hope you don't mind.
Thank you.
We wanted to do that.
That was 1970. We put that package together, and we went. We've been that way until, unfortunately, Freddie passed away a couple of years back, and Jimmy came back home, and Jimmy's been with us for like 11 years or 12 years, and as you mentioned, battling with something right now, so he actually is in a retired situation. But that Sonny's still with me, Bruce Kopp, Sonny's still with me, and Jimmy, and we still haven't made our minds what we're going to do with the other. We're using one or two guys from our band to do the fill-in background vocals. Joe Lucenti fills in for us. Al Bald, these are two of our regular musicians.
Right.
Thank God they're talented enough to be able to cover a lot of things for us.
Absolutely. So we wanted to mention that, of course. Now, 61, you mentioned about the accident. And at that point, you were talked into going solo for a little bit. Am I correct?
Yeah, actually, when I came out of the hospital, the guys pretty much, I knew I was going to be tied up for, inactive for over a year. And they had the opportunity to do a recording. So they went ahead and did it with the four of them. And then they broke up. And then when I came back out, I did it as a solo. And I signed with, I was signed with a couple of different labels. And we did, I wound up doing about maybe a half dozen or so different recordings, with plus the flip sides. And oddly enough, you may even know the guys, because at one point when I went back to Laurie, I had 4 songs that I had to do with Laurie, and they had the Tremonts signed to Laurie. Yep. The Tremonts were obviously from Tremont Avenue, right? And they wound up becoming, quote unquote, the Elegants, on that, as background vocals for that. they even put the label out. Said, on the label they named it Vito, as like they were looking for Dion or Fabian. So I became Vito. Right. So it's but that was 4 sides that I did with Laurie. And then we went back while we were with Laurie. Later on, we went back with the group and we did a song called Belinda with the group, the way you mentioned it, with Freddie, Nino, and Sonny, and myself.
Yeah. Mike, you got a young solo picture. There we are. Look at that. That is GQ model good looks there. That's a great looking shot. Absolutely. And we got comments of people saying how charming, I don't know you 60 years, but charming and good and handsome. And we got to agree with all these beautiful comments you're getting, Vito. So now you wind up 1961, 62, you record a song that had the same title as Brooke Benton's hit, Just a Matter of Time. And that was on the Elegance as well, or was that a solo project?
That's with the second coming of the Elegance. That was done. No. That is the Elegance, right? I'm sorry. That's the original group. We did Just a Matter of Time, right? That's it.
Hey, Mike, can we play 30 seconds, 45 seconds of that song.
It's just a matter of time until you love me. It's just a matter of time until you care. I'd wait my whole life through for you to love me. Come on and say you do. I've got a lot of love to share. It's just a matter of time.
Now, you also recorded the Brooke Benton version. Am I correct?
Yeah, that I did. We did that live. I think I did that at one of the casinos. I forgot, and there was a copy of that track. They put that track out, and we did the Brooke Benton version.
And out of the two, which one do you like best?
You know, I'll always go with ours first. I mean, I like what we did with ours, but I was very satisfied with the job I did with the Brooke Benton one. So, you know, I've got a passion for that version of it too.
Right. Now, unfortunately, you only have one album in your catalog. 1970, you did an album called A Night with the Elegants. Was that a live album?
No, that had a mixture of both the original stuff and some of the stuff with the latter group.
Is that readily available?
I really don't know. I don't know if it's. I know there was what's his name? Eddie Engel had one with his record called Crystal Ball Records. He had copies of those, and I know they were selling those, but I don't know if they're. I don't know how much of availability there is.
Right. So throughout the 70s and 80s, you were involved with the Doo Wop revival shows. You appeared at Madison Square Garden with Richard Nader. Did you see a lot of the groups throughout the 60s? Or did you not see them and then bang with the revivals? You wound up seeing a lot of your friends again.
Well,
the West Coast and everything.
When the Beatles disrupted everything, I still knew I wanted to continue singing, but I formed a group called Beau Geste and the Legions, and at that time you had the Rascals, you had all the acts that were coming out with costumes and looking for that different that hook, that little hook, and I wound up with this with Legionnaire outfits. We had the epaulets on the shoulder and the camel colored jackets and the white pants, and we went out and I worked pretty much the 60s with that group doing the 60s material. A cover group. We didn't do any recording, but we were out on the road. We were doing 6 nights a week throughout, through pretty much of that whole 60s era. And a lot of the groups that especially in the Broadway section, we used to call it the Broadway Loop. There were 5 or 6 clubs in that area. Trudy Heller's and the Wagon Wheel, and everyone had their own. Joey, you mentioned our friend Joey D. Joey was at the Peppermint Lounge. I was at the Headline, and that was where we worked out of. I believe the Rascals were out of the Wagon Wheel, or if they were, or the Metropole. I'm not really sure where they were. And quite a few of us created this little market for ourselves. And we worked in the Midwest, and we went down south and worked upstate. But I kept myself pretty busy with that group, and I enjoyed that. That was a good thing. And then we stopped around '68, and then that was it. I did 1 or 2 demos with Frankie Tardona from the group, where we went in and I wrote a couple of songs like the Righteous Brothers, and we tried to sell that package. That didn't work. And then we wound up putting together the group the way it is, the Elegants. And the second coming of the Elegants is what we've been doing since 1970.
Right. Do you remember your biggest show biggest audience, where it could have been?
Yeah, probably the biggest one we did was in Canada. It's where the Montreal Maple Leafs, well, the Toronto Maple Leafs,
Yep.
the Montreal, the hockey team, Montreal Canadiens,
Yeah.
whatever, one of those hockey arenas. We had about 17,000 people.
And who was the headliner on that? Were you hot at the time?
Yeah, that would have been the Everly Brothers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You
Actually, I actually did more than that in my old neighborhood. Was I did my 35th anniversary. I wanted to do it on the boardwalk where we started the group, and I put together a concert, an outdoor concert right at the boardwalk. And we went the whole 9 yards. I had a '57 Chevy candy apple red stretch limo drive us up the boardwalk ramp with a motorcycle escort, dropped us off. We came downstairs with silver sequin tails. I had, and we wound up pulling close, according to the local newspaper, we pulled 20,000 people in my old neighborhood.
Wow. Wow. That's fabulous. So now you're riding the crest of the revival, 70s, 80s. I remember seeing you at La Maganette.
Yeah.
Remember seeing you there, Villa Roma. And with your constant touring, you were able to project Little Star into over 1 million plays on radio. So you got a special recognition for that your song was played to this date at least 1 million times.
Yeah, it's called a Millionaire's Award. I did get that award. That was a few years back, and at that time it was aired 1 million times on the radio. I guess with today and streaming and everything else, I mean, we could have easily doubled that. Just like the 2.5 million records, with all of the compilations and all of the other things that have gone over the years, we probably just about doubled that too.
Right. Absolutely. I think the record keeping, although the technology has gotten better, the record keeping has not kept up with the times.
Right. I see a big difference now with streaming, though. I can tell by the royalty checks that, streaming is, I hate to think that it's just just because of the pandemic that people are home listening, but I think that that's where the future is. And unfortunately, like I said, you can see it by the royalty checks. Sometimes I look at them and I wonder how this thing pops up. I was on a plane one time on JetBlue, and Little Star came on the radio on the air on the plane, and sure enough, I get checks from JetBlue. And yesterday, somebody Facebooked me and posted a thing that cable show I never heard of it, something midwives, something about midwives, and they said that Little Star was just in that series. So you never know. It was in the pilot for The Sopranos. It was in American Hot Wax. It's gotten its fair share of shots over the years.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. Although your song is fabulously popular, you weren't around with the video, so you might not be a recognizable personality. If you're on a plane on JetBlue and your song comes on, do you look at the person next to you and say, "That's me"? Do you ever?
No, I look for the person that pulls out the earplugs. He's the guy I want to go after.
No, that's not possible. You were a mainstay at the San Gennaro feast in Little Italy, New York City for many, many years.
Yeah, we've done that for 28 years.
Wow.
In a row. And actually, the only 2 times we missed was this year because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And 9/11.
9/11. Yeah. Right. And that's a venue where if you weren't well accepted, they would make it known until you don't come back next year.
Oh,
yeah.
Over there they throw Zeppelins at you. You don't want to get hit with a cannoli if you know.
I know. I also read that you were the first doo-wop act to play Lincoln Center. How did that come about? Because Lincoln Center is not a doo-wop venue. How did that happen?
No, there was there was an arts, some type of arts show going on there, musical arts, and we actually represented the cultural center from Staten Island, the Snug Harbor Cultural Center, and we were asked to, to sing at that particular show, and they sponsored us, and we did it. That was great. I mean, even inclusive of the material that we had, our own material. We even had some other songs that people recognized, and we did silhouettes in our show. And while we were doing silhouettes, they had two young dancers in the background behind the screen, and they must have been about 12 feet high, with the silhouette on it. And what a great feeling that was. It was a great idea somebody had, and they left an impression on me. Yeah, it was good. We also were the first doo-wop show to go into Carnegie Hall. Dick Fox put it in there with 3, 4, or 5 acts. So we actually had the opportunity to be the first act, or one of the first acts into Carnegie Hall. But we were the only act in Lincoln Center, and then of course we did Madison Square Garden. And, we pretty much covered all the bases. We've done just about everything. We did every hotel up in the Catskills dozens of times. We did the casinos. We ran through the casinos, and this all came, don't forget, after the record. I mean, this came in more so those things happened in 1970 plus. The other stuff, when it was 1958, 59, 60, those were the ones that were actually on tour Midwest with some of the big names of that era.
Right. You might not remember this, but about 15 years ago or so, I produced a 15-act show in Orange County. Do you remember you came up, you were one of my acts?
Absolutely.
You were probably one of the top 3, because if we were to do it a second year, you were one of the three acts that we were told to bring back. That's a crowning achievement.
No, I remember that. I remember that very well. That was a great show. The production was good. The audience was very responsive. You had a good turnout. Even the kid, even what's his name was there. Vinny was there before he had the Bronx Wanderers.
Vinny was there with Butch Barbella when he was in the Bronx, and that was a doo-wop weekend, because the next day I had Jay Black.
Right.
And we wound up getting a lot of people up there. The hotels were all sold out, because when you see 15 acts on a show, it's unheard of. I go back, I go back right here. I have the Richard Nader souvenir book right here from Madison Square Garden. And when you look at some of these posters, I'm going to pick one out just to tell our viewers of the lineup that was at this show. And I'm going to go, where am I going to go here? I'm going to go to the middle page. If my fat fingers will move the I can't get the.
You got to get skinnier books.
I got to get fatter books or skinnier fingers. But I want our listeners and our viewers to hear who was on these shows. So let me give you this is incredible. Jerry Lee Lewis, Lloyd Price, the Shirelles, the Drifters, Johnny Maestro fronting both his groups, the Crest and the Brooklyn Bridge, the Skyliners, the Clovers, and Roy Orbison.
Right.
Okay, so you cannot produce this show today.
And those shows were $2.50 a ticket.
I'm amazed.
I don't know if you can see behind me, but these are. I'll read some of the posters behind.
Beautiful.
Buddy Holly and the Crickets, Clyde McFadden, Frankie Avalon, Bobby Darin, the Olympics, Dion and the Belmonts, Little Anthony and the Imperials, the Dan Lears, Jimmy Clanton, Jack Scott, Bobby Freeman. This was all one show. And it just goes on and on and on. I got up there Chuck Berry, Frankie Avalon, us, the Dan Lears, the Everly Brothers, Bo Diddley, Jimmy Clanton, the Royal Teens, Ed Townsend, the Cleftones, the Ponytails. How do you figure these things? And when you take a look at the price on it, take a look at the price tag, $2.50 to get in.
Well, that's why you did 6 shows a day.
Of course, of course.
Well, you know what, Vito? If you don't mind, maybe in the near future, you could take a picture of each one of those posters and
Mhm.
post one a day on your Facebook so people could see the shows. Because today you get a hit record, you're on a show all by yourself, 90 minutes. But that was 90 minutes of hits, 90 minutes of celebrities. It was a different time.
Absolutely, absolutely. It still amazes me. I've got this my music room down here. Wall to wall. One is all pictures of friends, all autographed pictures. Chuck Berry, Paul Anka, Frankie Avalon, Dion, Joey D, Bill Haley. These are all guys that we worked together and grew up together.
Right.
And then from this section on, it's just solid posters. I can't even put them all up. But it still amazes me that we went through this, and it's starting to ebb a little bit. And unfortunately, we didn't need this. We didn't need this pandemic to slow things down on the last few years that we have with what we do. So
right.
But it is what it is. We've got. There's another show that I'm looking at right now. It's it's the classics, the Crystals, the Tokens, the Vogues, the Fireflies. It's amazing. I did the Howard Theater, smack in the middle of an African American community. We were again the only white act on there. The Howard Theater was known for years as as almost like the Apollo of Washington D.C. I did it with Jackie Wilson. We did it with Fats Domino. I did it with a couple of other acts that were with us for a while. The Silhouettes that did Get a Job.
Right.
Baby Washington, who the time. Matter of fact, she just had a birthday. Happy birthday, baby.
Yes, hopefully she's been watching. Before I go to the next segment of questions, I want to just tell you, I know the pandemic put a hurting on you, and emotionally and financially, but you were there for so many years. So you should. I know we want to thank you and count your blessings because you are a part of America, a part of Americana rock and roll, and you've done something the past, I think, 20 years to keep this music alive and to promote people that you're friends with that might keep the music alive or upcoming stuff. You have a show on cable called Let the Good Times Roll. How long have you been doing that, Vito?
That's got to be 31 years, I think.
31?
I tell you, I think it's 31 years.
Wow.
And the only reason we stopped, obviously, now is because the studio is closed down until this is over, and then they'll reopen it again. But everybody that's anybody was on that show. I should really take a look at some of the old tapes, and a lot of the guys are no longer with us. But I had everybody from Johnny Maestro was there with the Bridge. I had Tiny Tim. I had the Cadillacs. I had the Harp Tones. You name them, they did my show.
You had somebody on the show that I never thought would be on your show.
You,
Mike, could you put that picture up, Mike? The Blues Brothers.
Yeah, you.
Me and my Elwood, Bob MacArthur, you graciously brought us out there. And if you remember, we almost tripped on the mic wires and killed ourselves.
Right. You almost became the Black and Blue Brothers.
The Black and Blue. And you leaned over to me and you said, I didn't know you did this. I only knew you was Elvis. But I got to tell you, Gene, you're very light on your feet. And I leaned over to you and I said, that's a polite way of saying I dance good for a fat guy. But I remember when you had your nightclub Question Mark. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
In Staten Island.
Yep.
I remember coming there a few times, and then it was right on Father Capodanno, I believe.
No, that was over on Nelson Avenue.
Nelson Avenue.
That I had. Everybody was there too. I had Skyliners, Jimmy Beaumont, the Skyliners. They were there at least 3 or 4 times. But just about everybody did that. The Cleftones, Herbie, everybody.
Joey D, of course.
Joey did it a few times, of course. Where I go, they go. That's the way I work.
Absolutely. So now you did music, you wrote a song, you traveled. Back in 1990, we saw your face on the big screen in a little movie called Goodfellas.
Right, right.
Yeah, there you are, right there. You're next to our old friend Cha Cha,
Yep.
and of course Frankie Vincent, who are no longer here. But
Yeah.
that was your big screen debut, correct?
That was it. Well, we did a movie called Joey years ago, and it was a movie about a young kid who was he was starting to go astray a little bit. He was a guitar player, but he was a teenager. He was going a little astray, and his father was an ex doo-wop singer, and he wound up finding music as the common denominator to get the kid back on his feet. And they wound up doing a show at Radio City. The kid plays guitar for his father's group on the stage. And we were in that movie. We had a cameo in that movie. And Scorsese saw it about 3 o'clock in the morning one night. He saw it on cable. They had his people reach out, and we went down and auditioned. I auditioned for a part that they wanted me to play, the restaurant owner that that they gave to someone else. But the bottom line was that I had a beard. I had a full beard at the time. And Scorsese said I had to shave the beard. The wise guys didn't have facial hair. And I said, I can't do that. I've had the beard for 15 years at the time. I said, I'm not an actor. I said, I really don't want to take a beard off. So he was shocked, and he said, look, I'll honor your wishes. He said, but just for your sincerity, he says, I'll give you something else. And I wound up with that one particular part, which of course, it was probably the pivotal scene in the movie. I mean, that thing was. I still see people that instead of saying, "Hey, little star," they say, "Hey, go home and get your shine box."
Absolutely. And you worked with Scorsese again because me and you met on the set of The Irishman.
He liked me so much, he brought me back 30 years later.
30 years later.
I don't know.
Joey D used to have a saying. Joey D used to have a saying, "Don't tell me I'm the best act you ever had because I'll never work for you again."
Yeah, right.
But I met you on
the fact that when we did that scene, the restaurant scene, which I was the manager of that Wise Guy restaurant in Philly, and you were at that scene a couple of times.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember when Marty came down the center of the restaurant after talking with Harvey Keitel, and he stopped in the middle of the restaurant and he put his finger up against his cheek and he said, "Vito, come here a minute." I walked over from the other side of the restaurant. I said, "Oh, he's going to cut another scene out, And he starts tapping my shoulder and my chest, and he says, "What was the name of your second record?" I mean, completely floored me. I said, "Please Believe Me," which was the one you played before.
Yeah.
He said, "I love that song. I love the intricacies that you did with your voice." He said, "You know what? Let's take a break and let's go talk music." He shut the scene down for like 45 minutes. I went in his trailer and we talked about doo-wop music. Regular guy, really a nice guy.
I was there that day. I was in the booth when that happened, which stopped production, and Pesci was a little annoyed because he wanted to get out early and go play golf.
Oh my God. Yeah, constantly. He was always looking at his watch.
Always looking at his watch. But then you have another credit in an uncredited role in that movie as being the Italian dialect teacher to De Niro and Pesci. You talked about.
I worked with them before the shoot in De Niro's office, and I taught them how to speak Sicilian for the movie. Even though Robert De Niro spoke Sicilian in The Godfather, I was kind of shocked that he didn't speak Italian. And we broke down the scenes and did as much as we could. There was a lot of scenes that Joey wasn't thrilled about, and he would say, "The hell with this one," and they cut out a lot of the ones that he just spoke English. But the ones that they kept in there, when you hear them speaking Italian at the table in that restaurant, I actually wrote and translated those, the script into Italian, and then taught them how to speak it with the Sicilian accent.
Yes. And, we saw each other back in the backstage area a few times, and you were so gracious to always say hello to me and put your arm around me. And you had everybody in the cast looking at me saying, "Who are you? That guy is saying hello to you all the time." So you made me very famous on the set of The Irishman, Vito. Thank you. But let's talk about what's coming up for Vito Picone Elegance. When this whole pandemic goes away, you're going to be on a wonderful cruise next year called the Malt Shop Memories Cruise, right?
Yeah, we were supposed to. Matter of fact, we were supposed to be there now. I think, give or take a day, we were supposed to be around this time, and they shut that down, moved us to 2021, and as did just about everything. We had 2 cruises to Alaska. I had 2 concerts in Italy, plus the usual stuff around here. The Westbury's and the American Music Theater. Those are all rescheduled for next year.
So you're gonna have a busy year next year.
Hopefully. I mean, I think we should be all right. I would just wish that this thing would get some traction and and get a heads up on it. Because even if you're looking at a show in March, people start buying tickets 2 months in advance. And if they're still leery in January, I don't know who's going to be buying tickets. So we really have to bring this thing to a halt, or at least to some kind of a situation somewhere before the holidays are over.
I think we will. I think we're going to see it dissipate in the next few weeks, which way it goes. Vito, I got to tell you, man, the comments that we are getting, I guess a lot of people didn't know that Vito Picone and the Elegance were more than just a one-hit wonder. The stories that you said today, have you ever thought about writing your memoirs? Have you thought about that?
I've been hearing that for years and years and years. My son is a screenwriter, and it probably would have been easy to do it. But I don't know. To me, I don't think it's interesting enough. Maybe I should really look at it differently. But there's also a lot of stuff that I don't want to mention people's names.
Right.
And that takes away all of the interest in it.
Well, I'm in the process of doing something like that as well, and a lot of people are still with us. And I don't think it's the names that sell. I think it's the situations. And for you to tell us that you were personally hanging out with Darren at a social level, I think would make a great chapter. So, if our little interview here sparked an interest that you might want to do it, please let your fans know the wonderful 60 plus years that
somebody just brought up an interesting thing. They said maybe a what they call a coffee table book.
Sure.
What they call it. I think that's what it is. And he said, that's a little smaller. It's and it's easy read and blah 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 blah. But I mean, there's a lot of things. I just came across, with the pandemic, we started shredding papers and throwing away a lot of things like everybody did. Mm-hmm. And I came across a piece of paper that had the original lyrics to the Good Night that you played before. So it was actually written on this piece of paper. But when I flipped it over, there was a telegram that I had sent, and I wrote the words down before I called it into Western Union. And it was a telegram to Bobby Darin, and it was and I had forgotten my one set of my pants, our costumes, our outfits. I forgot them on the bus, and we were going to see each other in Iowa in a couple of weeks. So I contacted him, I telegraphed him, and I asked him to see if he could find my brown, pants and bring them to Iowa. And so I was looking at it like it was yesterday. 62 years later, I'm looking at something I wrote down and and gave it to Bobby Darin to bring my pants to the job in Iowa.
Imagine you're giving Bobby Darin clothes orders. It's great. And you know what, Vito, I'm so glad that we're doing this because, guys like you wind up on the radio or a talk show for 5 minutes. So what can you really say in 5 minutes? But I hope you enjoyed your time with us. And we will be here to promote anything you're involved in. We got a lot of great guests. Hopefully you'll watch our show. Next week, we got Billy Vera on the show.
Billy's a good friend.
He's
you give him my regards when you talk to him.
Yes.
Billy played guitar. Billy played guitar for us many, many years ago when he was 15 years old.
Really?
That's he he was up in Yonkers, and we worked up in the Westchester area, a place called the Broadway Lounge, and a couple other places up that way. And Billy had his little band, and you know, and then again he played for us behind some of the Native shows too.
Yes.
With the Beatles.
Speaking
Great
of Westchester,
great talent.
absolutely. Well, we're so glad that he agreed to do the show.
Yeah.
But speaking of Westchester, I don't know if you heard the very sad news that the Westchester Broadway Theater closed today and will never open up again.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're very sad. We saw you there many times. Every great group, Al Martino, Connie Francis, of course, The Bridge. Everybody's been there. So this is another casualty of the pandemic. But I will tell you this, I've been playing lotto, and if I ever become a millionaire, I'm buying 5 venues, 1 in every borough in Westchester, and we're going to continue the shows. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we do every week, please give our guest, Mr. Vito Picone, the biggest round of applause you can. Thank you, Vito.
Thank you, Jay. The best. Good luck with the show, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vito.
Vito, I'll call you tomorrow. I got to talk to you, okay?
You got it, buddy.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you so much.
Wow. Gene, I have to tell you, I'm sitting back here taking notes during this whole thing, and just the names alone, right? So Ricky Nelson opens for him. Just the names. It's no one would believe it.
So last week we have Joey D, who had, never mind, he had Jimi Hendrix in the band, and the Beatles opened for him.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Now we have Vito Picone, and Rick Nelson opens for him.
And Bobby Darin's getting his clothes for him.
Bobby Darin's his Taylor, right? So let me tell you some of the people that opened up for me. I had Johnny the Pizza Man open for me once. And then I had Larry the Liquor Salesman open up for me once. And then when I had a few dollars and I paid somebody, I had a guy named Moonshine Johnson.
Moonshine. Oh, he was good.
Who was an alcoholic puppet.
Well, you know what? You got to start somewhere, Gene.
I got to start. Listen, I'm in this business 40 years. If I don't have great stories right now, but I got to tell you, see, like I said, Vito, when he saw me on The Irishman, and listen, I was one of a couple of guys that had no relevancy there. He just made it a point to walk over to me. And I wish I was a millionaire so I could put on big shows and just pay these people not what they deserve, what they're worth.
Right.
And when you talk about, listen, if you're going to have one song, Little Star, I mean, what could you say?
Yeah. And when he was reading the programs from
Oh my God,
the amount of groups, there aren't that many groups around today that would play together in a venue like that. And for $2.50, that's a bargain.
let me tell you, I heard a story back in the 90s. They wanted to have a Rock God's Voices show. And it was going to be Steve Perry of Journey.
Right.
It was going to be Peter Cetera of Chicago and Kevin Cronin of REO Speedway.
Speedwagon. Yeah.
And they stood to make millions of dollars. They could not agree on who would close the show.
Wow.
Because they all thought they were the greatest and the show never happened. And then you got guys like Darren and Buddy Holly and the Everly. But now these guys were not only the top of their craft, they were the big bang of rock and roll. They were the first 10 years.
Right.
And they got along perfectly. So I think that should show people of today that you got to get along.
Right.
You can make great memories if you get along.
Right. Well, you know what they say. You're no Moonshine Johnson. But Gene, I just have a great business meeting you can go into. Why don't we just write books for these people? Right? Joey D last week, Vito this week. We'll just start being a publishing house.
Mike, don't tease me, because since last week, my mind has been going on how to help Joey. And I think I got to take a ride to you. Maybe not this week because I'm busy. My little godson, Leo, 3 years old, is going in for a surgery, heart surgery.
Oh,
He will be fine. It's a minimal surgery, but I want to be there for him.
of course.
But maybe next week I'll come out and we'll have lunch and
Yeah.
we'll talk about things. But listen, let's talk about next week's show.
Yes.
So, 1987, this song was on every station, every minute of every day. Talking about the song at this moment.
I'll put the banner up for next week.
Please put it up. This is Billy Vera of the Beat, Billy Vera and the Beaters, songwriter and singer. As you can see on the left of the poster, started out in the 50s, doo-wopping, played guitar, produced, then wrote this song, and of course on the right with his Grammy. And, you know, we are so tickled and so happy that he's going to be with us next week. He has a wealth, Mike, of information. Maybe we'll write his book too.
Yeah, we'll just keep them going.
We'll just keep them going. But we got some more guests. If you join our page, Reminiscing with Gene DiNapoli, you'll see all the guests as we get them coming up. Our YouTube channel, Gene DiNapoli. Our sponsors, we have an offers button on this page. You can see all our sponsors. We have so many great guests coming. We're already booked until the end of January, which will be all Elvis month, because of course I'm an Elvis fanatic. Please, we love the comments. Unfortunately, I can't see them because they're too far away. But please spread. What?
There were a lot of comments, and if I know Vito, he just left the backstage. But if he's listening or watching, go back, read all the comments. There's so many comments. You know, I can't scroll every time I scroll and refresh. There's got to be hundreds of comments. It looks like. So
you know, it really makes me happy because when I call these people, they go, "Well, what do you want? Why me?" And I go, "Well, you're a friend." Oh, nobody's going to watch, and I'm so happy when we have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of viewers over the course of a week. To let these people know you might not be on the charts now, but you're still relevant. So
yeah, and for everyone that's watching and commenting, please share it with people that you think might like it.
Share
it. And just keep growing the community. And Gene keeps getting these great guests, and it's more, more viewers.
Yes.
The better it is that they want to come on and share their stories, and they see the format, and it's it's a nice interview. It's very easy.
To our sponsors, if anybody out there has a small business or a big business and you want a reasonable way to market, not only locally, but to nationally, because we do have listeners all over the country, probably in other countries as well, send me a message through the page, Reminiscing with Gene DiNapoli. It just helps us advertise the shows, and some guests want to get paid, and I understand that. So what I do is I say, can't afford you, but maybe someday we'll donate to your favorite charity. So if we wind up with a lot of sponsors, we're going to call all our guests, previous and past, and say, you did this for me, what can we do? And if they say send money to St. Jude, we'd be happy to do that. Mike, you have other shows you're doing as well. So whoever takes an ad out on my show will be spread over 4 or 5 other shows.
Yes.
Our YouTube channel is getting bigger. We're actually going to be streaming our audio of the shows on ItalianAmericanRadio.com.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a great thing. And then, of course, we got other streaming services that we're going to be promoting on as well.
Right. And to touch on that too, Gene, as far as people that would like to sponsor, like you said, we're going to do cross platforms. And I have a couple other shows right now that are potentially very big with audience reach. I'm talking, also simulcasting on radio stations as well. So if you get in right now with the sponsorship, we grandfather that in, and you're on all of our platforms.
And hopefully you're thinking this show will be just as big as some of your others.
Oh, yeah, hopefully. Yeah, this is going to be the biggie.
Okay, great.
This is the biggie.
For an updated list on my shows coming up, please check out my website, GeneDiNapoli.com. Venues are opening up slowly but surely. So if you want to come out and enjoy, whether it's my Elvis show or my variety show, come on out. Mike, I told you I want to bring you to Arthur Avenue for dinner. So maybe in the holiday season, you'll join me and my wife. Next week, Billy Vera and the Beaters. You got to get me a couple of new banners for our upcoming guests. And I'm going to read these contests Okay, Joe Remini, please, can you send me a message on the Reminiscing with Gene DiNapoli page? I'll get back to you tomorrow. Mike, once again, thank you for all your help. Thanks to all our sponsors, Dream Destination Travel, Creative CPA, SweetHeal.com, and Pure Organic Dry Cleaning here in the Bronx. Please visit them. Let them know you heard it on our little show. And Mike, I'll call you tomorrow. I'm exhausted from the movie.
Okay.
God bless you. And
Yes.
everybody, go out and vote.
Right.
And,
Go out and vote.
God bless America.
Thanks again to Vito for joining us, and thanks for everyone for watching. If you miss it, it's always here. Please share, like, do whatever you have to do. Get the message out.
All of our shows, which is now this is number 8. This is 8, Mike. We're almost in double digits, Mike.
No more Moonshine Johnson.
No more Moonshine. I wonder if he's alive.
So look him up.
I don't
Good
know.
night, Gene. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe and God bless you.